Welcome to Money Mavericks and Mayhem, the podcast where finance meets audacity in a whirlwind of insight and excitement. Join hosts Adri Blyer and Ryan Duchak as they bring you closer to the stories of risk takers, rule breakers, and boundary pushers who are reshaping the financial landscape. Perfect for seasoned investors, budding entrepreneurs, or anyone curious about the tumultuous world of money. This is Money Mavericks and Mayhem.
Welcome back to Money Mavericks and Mayhem, where we explore the forces that shape our financial landscape. I'm Adri Blyer.
And I'm Ryan Duchak. Today we'll dive into the innovative mind of Jeffrey Bezos, exploring the intricate principles of supply chain economics and dissecting the great baby formula shortage. That was pretty recent too. So let's get this journey started.
All right. So, Jeff Bezos. I hear it all different kinds of ways. Bezos. What do you say? I say Bezos.
I say Bezos, but I also say tomato. So
I don't know actually.
I'm not saying I am correct. I just say Bezos.
Yeah, I hear it all different kinds of ways. So we'll alternate between Bezos and Bezos here for a while. So Jeff Bezos, the founder, of course, of Amazon, if you don't know who he is, well, I don't know where you've been, has obviously revolutionized retail through his innovative approaches to ultimately supply chain management. I mean, there's a lot to Amazon, but I think the changing force globally is really that supply chain management. So Ryan, can you unpack how Jeffrey started and what his early innovations were?
I certainly can, Adri, and I agree with you. I think what made Amazon take off was the supply chain management that they had in the whole, we'll get it to you in 2 days. That just transformed it, the online shopping experience. But to start at the beginning, Jeff Bezos founded Amazon in 1994 in what I think a lot of people know, but some might not actually, is it was initially created as an online bookstore. That was it. All they did, selling books.
Yep.
He wanted to compete with Barnes and Noble, and, well, I shouldn't say wanted to. He eliminated Barnes and Noble, and what was the other major bookstore? Borders.
Yeah. I think Barnes and Noble is still around, certainly not what it once was. I haven't seen the Borders. I don't even know if they're still in business. I'm not sure.
Borders is not, to my knowledge. Barnes and Nobles is.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Not nearly as prevalent as they were. But regardless, from the beginning, Bezos was focused on optimizing every aspect of the supply chain to deliver maximum value to customers. His first major innovation was creating a business model that relied on real-time data to drive decisions, which allowed Amazon to keep low inventories and reduce overhead costs.
Right. You know, it's interesting you were talking about Barnes and Noble, and I was thinking back to, I was probably, I mean, yeah, I don't know what year that would have been. I was out either in school or out. I'm not sure if I was still in college in San Diego, but there was a Barnes and Nobles we used to go to. There was a Starbucks, of course, and I remember Amazon in Barnes and Noble. Right, like they have so it's interesting to think about, and when you think about business and innovation. Well, Barnes and Noble didn't see this coming. I mean, they let Amazon basically take over that whole online showcase, because I remember going to Barnes and Noble. You'd go into Barnes and Noble for physical books, and they had signs for Amazon. And I never had I never bought a book from Amazon. I don't think I probably have since that point, but I would go and buy physical books. I enjoyed, picking up the book and reading the jacket, so forth and so on. But I always thought that was interesting. And now you see Barnes and Noble and just missing that innovation. But so, kind of getting back to what we were talking, how did Bezos' approach evolve? As Amazon grew from just an online book retailer, How was that evolution?
Well, first, you in don't quote me on this because it was a long time ago, but I read a book about Jeff and Amazon many many moons ago, and so I'm not completely clear on the specific details to it, but he approached, it was either Borders or Barnes and Noble owners who were two brothers, if memory serves me correct, about buying Amazon in its infancy.
Oh,
And I'm fairly certain I don't want to say they laughed him out of the room with that concept of buying it, but books are physical, online will not work. The whole story of, yeah, good try, but no, thank you. And they were wrong. So they did see it coming, kind of, but they didn't actually see what was coming. They saw a different thing coming, and got crushed. Is the only way to put it. And I don't remember which company it was that he had talked with. I'm assuming Barnes and Noble. If you saw an Amazon,
yeah,
they had some type of partnership.
yeah. I'm
And
pretty sure. I could be wrong. It might have been Borders, but I'm pretty sure it was a Barnes
I
and
think it was Barnes and Nobles, but I'm not. It was probably 10 years ago I read this book, so
right.
I don't remember the details. But
No.
regardless, they um, obviously grew, and as Amazon expanded beyond books, Bezos' strategies evolved to include more complex logistics solutions. So he invested heavily in advanced software for supply chain management, which integrated information across various parts of the company, from inventory to customer service. Now, this integration allowed for an incredibly responsive supply chain that could adapt quickly to changes in customer demand, even.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting how quickly that landscape changed, for better and for worse. I mean, there's certainly, as a consumer, right, we love Amazon because you order something and it's there. It's kind of slipped a little bit. I don't know if what you're,
It slipped a lot.
yeah, okay,
I'm not I don't want to say I'm not a fan, but I've been disappointed with. It's not 2 days anymore,
right.
and I'm not sure what I'm paying for with Prime at this point, and things keep getting delayed, and um,
Yeah, there was a
I
good,
buy something because it's going to arrive in 2 days, and I need that in 2 days, and then oops,
oh,
you're delayed. You'll get it on the third day. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, that's what I've noticed too. I mean, but I mean, during COVID and they were really kind of on spot for a while there. And it was just amazing to say, oh, I just ordered something online because you were so used to waiting a week, 2 weeks for something and you ordered online. You almost forgot that you ordered something. And there was that time period, and it still happens, but not as often where you have it in a day or 2 days. And then they brought it down to like 2 hours. At one point, I'd order something and it would come the same day. I'm like, how does that work?
Yep.
So there's that good, but then there was the bad, and it's the bad has really wreaked havoc. I think it's a big problem for Amazon, um, which is the free shipping. You know
Hmm.
that that's just really messed up people's minds about how e-commerce works, and people today think that shipping is free, and shipping is never free. Like there's never you're paying for it one way, or either you're paying for it or these small businesses are paying for it by cutting out their profits, right? And that's not good for really anybody because it's not transparent. But companies, even on business to business levels, uh, if you're doing any kind of commerce, a lot of businesses expect free shipping, and you're like, you're a business, free shipping doesn't exist. But anyway,
I completely agree. And I'm a casualty of this, personally speaking. If I go elsewhere and there is a shipping cost, I look at it and I'm like, wait, what? Why would I pay shipping? That's insanity. And then I come back down to earth, and it's because it still has to get here. And it, like you said, somebody's paying for it.
Yep.
It's whether it's just marked up in my cost, or I pay it directly, or the company eats it. One of those three things is happening to get that here. And it was no, I got an advertisement. That's what it was. I got an advertisement from uh, a e-commerce site that if I spent over $250 for this weekend or whenever the sale was, I would get free shipping. And I looked at it and I laughed of like, that's your teaser? That's your incentive to get me to buy from you? Free. Oh, well, yeah, okay. Actually, that is a good incentive because this
Shipping.
specific store sells very heavy items that are expensive to ship.
Yeah, shipping is extremely expensive. I mean, we just did as you know, my wife runs a promotional marketing company, and so we had to do an RFP for a large company, and one of their requirements, obviously the person, yeah, it doesn't matter, but one of their requirements was free shipping. And it's like, okay, do you just want me to bear, like, do you want, because as we talk about transparency all the time, and transparency is important, but these companies are like, okay, just pull the wool over our eyes. And, you think, well, the free shipping isn't a thing. It doesn't exist. Like nobody has a business that they just give things away for free. And as everybody, I think, hopefully knows, if you're getting a service for free, or a software or whatever, like a Facebook or an Instagram, you know, you're still paying for it because you're selling your data to them, or you're giving your data to them, right? So nothing's free. And it's just amazing how Amazon and Jeff Bezos, when they created this, uh, really changed that whole landscape, and mind warped everybody. And it's like zombies. It's just wild for me to watch. But back to Bezos and Amazon. What obviously technology was crucial, but what role did really technology play within these innovations?
It was the role. It was the central key aspect to their innovations, to their success. He pioneered the use of predictive analysis to forecast demand and set prices dynamically. And this is where it goes from they are an amazing company to they are the worst company ever. I'm not on either side necessarily, but there are people that are, and it depends on how you work with them. So that dynamic price setting is based on supply and demand, which we've discussed on the show, which is a good thing, except when a bunch of people, when they're promoting a product to create the demand and then the price goes up on that product, and it gets into, there's a lot of questions with, or I shouldn't say questions, there's a lot of people that question Amazon's fact that they are a marketplace and a retail sales company as well, now that they have Amazon Basics. So
Mm.
you can see you have this technology, you have this predictive analysis, you're selling other people's products, but then you have a division of your company that also can, I don't want to say steal, but
It's
can
what it was.
can rip off their design,
Yeah.
make the same exact product, slap your logo on it, sell it for $10 cheaper. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom, as Tony Soprano might say. And now you're out of business, even though I'm selling your product still.
Hmm.
I'm hurting my stores in my marketplace. And what a lot of people, to give an overview of how Amazon works, is they are a marketplace. They're a mall, basically, online. And thousands, millions of small businesses, big businesses, all businesses of all kind list their products for sale in the quote unquote Amazon mall marketplace. Now, what I was talking about with Amazon's Basics, that's their own personal company that is selling in the same mall. And that, again, I'm truthfully not sure how I feel about it. As a consumer, I like paying less. Um,
Yeah.
as a capitalist free market enthusiast, is that a free market? I don't know.
No,
Um,
I don't think that it is, and it's, I mean, from a capitalist standpoint, you say, okay, well, everybody has the right to, try to grow their company as large as possible, and however you do that. So Bezos figured it out, right? He figured out a new way to do things and built his company. Okay, that's capitalism, but you're doing it, and I guess it's always on the back of somebody else, but now you're doing it on the back of basically, you could say global, but certainly national small businesses, who are just, I talk about small businesses all the time, right? Because everybody has probably a skewed view of what business owners actually go through when you're talking about small business owners. And it's a roller coaster, and it's tough, and it's grueling, and it's grinding, and it can be very rewarding. But um, when you're a small business and you're saying, okay, well, I need to get on Amazon for whatever reason. I mean, I have to get my product on there. Number one, I think that a lot of people think that Amazon actually pays for the shipping. Well, they don't, right? It comes out of the small business, or, however that you want to figure out how to price your product competitively, but you can't add shipping because nobody else is, or very few people are. And so you're just cutting into your margins, but maybe it's a marketplace, like you said, a mall. I want to be in the mall. I've got to be there. But it just, from a lot of small businesses that I've talked to, or owners that I've talked to that have marketplaces, or a market, whatever you call it, shop on Amazon, said it's really not profitable. I mean, you get visibility, you can get visibility, but it's not a great business plan. It's a great business plan for Amazon, and it just really becomes problematic. So I'm with you, where I'm kind of on a fence. Like, okay, I like capitalism on one side, but you're also using your power to squash your competition. Okay, I understand that too. That's part of capitalism, but you need competitors as well. And so I am, a bit hypocritical sometimes with between the two of them, because I buy Amazon basic stuff for the stuff that I don't really care about. Like, I have a little dog who was barking on the last episode, and I buy the poop bags from Amazon
mhm.
because they're the cheapest ones. You get 50 of them for $10. I don't know what it is, but then it's there in 2 days, and you go, okay, I don't care about the bags. If I go to Five Below, I'm paying actually twice as much money for the same bags, um,
Yep.
and I have to buy 20 packs of them. Well, I just get a box. They come in. I'm good for 6 months or whatever, and it does make it easy. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I don't know that it's a in my mind, I don't have a concrete line drawn, right? I don't have a line in the sand to say this is bad or this is good. There's good aspects. There's certainly convenience, uh, but I do know on the backside, for small business, it's not a real great model for a lot of small
Oh,
business.
yeah. And I don't know if it's changed, but the original kind of viewpoint, it was Amazon was great for customers. They free shipping, two day arrival, all any product you can imagine is available on it. Great customer service, no question return policies.
Mhm.
But what was not widely known at that point, and again, I don't know if it's changed or it's still the same, is that fell all onto the small business, not Amazon. The small business was paying Amazon for that free shipping. The small business was eating that return cost, even if there was nothing wrong with it. As a consumer, I mean, I would, and I still do sometimes buy things to try from Amazon, and buy, like, I don't buy my clothes from Amazon, but I could buy 5 different t-shirts from them knowing I'm going to return 4 of those, and I'm buying it because it's free shipping. There's no question asked return, and I don't have to pay anything. The FedEx driver shows up and I hand them the package that all I did was I spent money on tape to send it back. That's it.
Yep.
And what you don't realize is a company's paying for that, and it's not Amazon.
No.
So they were kind of known as very customer centric, great for the customer, but the monster to the small business. But you had to be on it to get it. And I think the goal for small business was volume, because of Amazon's fees and the return possibilities and all that stuff, the margins became very, very thin. So if you could get something hot on Amazon and sell 1,000 units of it, now you're profitable. If you're selling 2, you're losing money by having it on Amazon. And again, that was years ago, so I'm not sure how that's changed, because Bezos isn't running it anymore, but the advancements keep coming. He while he was there, he implemented robotic automation in their fulfillment centers, which sped up the picking and packing process and reduced the chance of human error inside of the shipping. So if you ordered a t-shirt or a guitar, since there's some guitars behind you, you ordered a guitar from Amazon, and a t-shirt shows up in the package because a human wasn't paying attention. Nope. He implemented robotic automation to pick that guitar off the shelf and make sure you got what you ordered.
Right. I wonder, when he's building, you ever see that picture of him in it's called his bedroom or whatever, and he has like a hand painted sign that says Amazon on it. He's got all his computers in front of him, and I don't know how old he is then, maybe in his 20s, still bald, got the U bald on there. But I always think about these. I think the same thing about Elon Musk, right? But it's like, what's your ultimate vision? Because like, there's always, for those kind of guys, a bigger vision. And I always thought like Amazon, like Jeff Bezos, his ultimate vision was a completely, I shouldn't say completely, but from a picking and packing and supply chain, no humans whatsoever, right? Everything robotic, from the delivery to the picking and packing to the storing to the shipping, with drones and all that. Because Elon Musk, I always think, okay, everything that he does, I'm not saying I'm right, probably not, is about Mars. Like everything that he does is, it's like, okay, I'm building tunnels, a machine, that builds tunnels underground. I'm like, why do we really need tunnels
I'm
underground?
just testing it to see if I can use it on Mars.
To see if I can use it on Mars. We're not going to have any fuel on Mars, so what about electric vehicles? Can we get those to work? Oh, okay. How about rocket ships? We need those to get to Mars, so let's create a whole company around rocket ships. And just in case there's aliens on Mars, we need a company that builds a flamethrower, just because. But
I think both of them, and I obviously can't speak for both of them, but I think both of them, their ultimate goal is complete efficiency.
yeah,
Cost efficiency, time efficiency, everything efficiency. So with Elon, I mean, personally, I think the flamethrowers was, I'm extremely rich and
right,
this will be fun.
right.
So let's do that. Like he's a big kid.
Yeah, he's
I mean, all respect due to him. Elon Musk is a 40 or 50 something 12-year-old boy and has more money than he knows what to do with. So like, hey, you want to build a flamethrower?
yeah,
Instead of doing it in the backyard with a can of hairspray and piping tube that every other 12-year-old in rural America uses, he was like, let me drop 100 million into this because that's pocket change, and I'm gonna build a flamethrower.
It's awesome. It's just great. I don't know. I love that.
Right, but you're absolutely right. It could be long term. I mean, with Bezos, looking at him, Amazon is everything from A to Z,
Yeah.
and that's what his goal was. He wanted to get to everything from A to Z, listed on his marketplace. His original goal was not just to sell books. That's what he started with. And he was a Wall Street guy.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what he did, but I think it was like investment banking on Wall Street, and he left that and pulled the Steve Jobs, hopped into a garage and created Amazon there, with breaking into it with books, but there was a bigger goal. And I don't want to go as far to say his goal was to destroy brick and mortar retail, to revolutionize, I shouldn't say destroy, but to revolutionize the uh, consumer shopping experience. But that's what he did. And I'm sure along the way he realized that was happening, and shifted his goal at the very least of how do I optimize this to make this the biggest and the best.
Yeah. You did a good job. But it's just so, when you think about Amazon, I mean, we talked about shipping and speed of commerce and all that, but you know, it seems like the innovations, as we've kind of touched on, were more, kind of much more than just speed, but maybe the full supply chain type of aspect of global commerce.
Oh, absolutely, Adri. Efficiency was the key. I mean, it was the technology was central to get that efficiency. So by optimizing delivery routes and warehouse operations, Amazon could not only deliver quickly, but also lower the cost per shipment. So since they were eating some of the cost, or the small business was eating the cost, getting that lower was a big goal. His focus on the customer experience, ensuring fast, reliable delivery, became a core principle that drove many of his supply chain innovations. And I think the issues that we're seeing right now are not particularly Amazon's fault. Every time I see a delay in receiving something, it's not being delivered by Amazon. It's being delivered by FedEx or UPS.
Hmm.
So, and there's no data behind this. I have no research to validate my point here, but my assumption is FedEx, UPS, with the explosion in online retail shopping, is overwhelmed,
Yeah.
and their supply chain isn't possibly as efficient as Amazon's, and therefore they're the ones dropping the ball. It's I want to give Amazon credit where credit's due, that I don't believe it's their fault
Right.
when that reliable delivery is missing. They're contracting with a third party. And I know that at one point they were they had a fleet of planes, or have one of the two, and were looking at, or kind of on the brink of taking out UPS and FedEx from their supply chain aspect and their delivery aspect. I'm not sure if they're still trying to do that, or have gone away from doing that, or where they stand in that process now. But they do have to rely on third parties to meet their goals and needs, which can sometimes cause problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. The UPS, because I talked to a couple UPS drivers, and the ones I talk to aren't very happy. They're overworked. They feel like they're underpaid. They're underappreciated at the company. And if you're a company like Amazon, or any company for that matter, you look at where your weakest points are, and if it's part of that supply chain and their final delivery, well, that's a huge problem. So I would think, of course, they're looking into. I know that they had looked into it, but maybe looking into, because you always hear about the drones. That kind of died away, but who knows? But nowadays, they have that last. I don't know if it's called last mile. And at
Hmm.
first, like Amazon trucks showing up, and then it was like vans that looked somewhat professional. Now people just like show up in a car. It's like,
I
who
know. It's
are
so weird. There's times where
you?
somebody's driving
Yeah.
down my driveway and I'm like, who is here? What? No one's supposed to be here. Oh, that's a delivery driver.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, well, okay, things are changing, but I mean, maybe that's all they can do. It's like, hey, let's just get as many, people, at least for that last stretch, to get it to the customers as soon as possible. And we can't give everybody a van, or we can't, we just need too many people. And maybe, I'm sure they're trying to scale that up, I would assume. But being in that position of being the largest platform, there's so many competitors that just haven't made it. But well, I like to shop in person still. Maybe it's because I'm old. I mean, I shop a lot online, right? But like, if I want something, I'm not ordering my deodorant from Amazon. Like, I go down to Target and I buy it. I have a Target fairly close by, and Target does the same thing with you. You were talking about the Amazon Basics. Well, they have Goodfella, whatever. At least for guys, I'm sure there's a women's brand. But that's where I go. Uh, I don't anyway. It seemed from Amazon's, obviously, the impact on the supply chain management has been profound, is not even touching the surface there. But with such a strong foundation, with their innovation, again, the supply chain strategies. Let's switch gears, Ryan, and let's talk about those broader principles that about supply chain management when we come back.
Sounds good. Struggling to wake up refreshed to tackle your busy day? Introduce Nolapelli to your bedtime routine. Their innovative bedding and sleep masks work in sync with your body for deeper, more restorative sleep. Made right here in the USA from advanced performance fabrics, Nolapelli products balance moisture and regulate temperature so you wake up looking and feeling ready to conquer whatever the day throws at you. Invest in better sleep and better mornings with Nolapelli. Use code MONEY15 for 15% off your first purchase, because the path to success starts with waking up on the right side of the bed. Nolapelli is not affiliated with LPL Financial or the Monteverdi Group. Supply chain economics is essential for understanding how companies like Amazon operate so efficiently. So, Adri, can you explain the foundational principles of this discipline?
Yeah. So, at its core, supply chain economics looks at the optimization of resources from production to delivery, then finally to the end customer or consumer, if you will. One foundational principle is the concept of just in time inventory, right? Which minimizes stock levels to reduce holding costs. Therefore, that helps to increase efficiency.
So, how do companies implement these principles effectively, I guess? I mean,
Well,
that sounds like a challenging.
right? I don't think that most companies
You
don't.
made
But
it
companies,
sound very easy.
yeah, it's super simple, right? Just have the right amount of inventory at all times, and you don't have to worry about anything.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Done.
yeah, easy, right? Yeah, I mean, this is a pain point for most companies, uh, and it's one that Amazon figured out. But again, a lot of companies haven't really been able to figure it out from Amazon, or just haven't been able to compete really with Amazon. I remember, I think Walmart came out with Jet. I think it was called Jet for a while. I think that was Walmart's, and it was actually fairly nice because I think you had like three. Anyway, I don't remember exactly how it worked, but it only lasted maybe a year or so. I don't even know. But so implementation often starts with uh, forecasting tools, right? We were talking about Amazon and all the data that they're gathering to say, here's what, if you look at Amazon Basics, they're using forecasting tools to say, oh, here's a hot item, and then should we break into that space or not? So you need the right software, and you need the right data to collect. Um, and then they use historical data, predictive algorithms today or soon. I mean, I know it's already implemented, but it'll be implemented more. This is all going to be run by AI coming up here. Again, a lot of it already is, but that's just going to get bigger and bigger. But using all this information to accurately gauge demand, right, or future demand. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. No,
So if you're a company in this space, um, you also will try to streamline operations by integrating supplier and also logistics into one platform, which will help you provide visibility across the entire supply chain. So the idea is you just want to have all the data centralized and then be able to parse that data in any way that you see fit. Again, this is going to machine learning, and now AI is going to help parse that data um, really, really well. So if you're a large enough company that you have enough data, that's number one. If you're just a small mom and pop, you're like, oh, I had 3 customers today, and you don't really need this kind of stuff. But if you're a larger company dealing with supply chain like an Apple or an Amazon, Microsoft, whomever, data is key.
so what about the role of globalization then?
Well, same kind of principle. I mean, globalization has certainly expanded that scope, and obviously made supply chain management much more complex. But so companies now source materials obviously from all over the world, sell internationally to other markets, right? So not just Amazon, but we had a show on Alibaba at one time, right? Similar type of things. So that global network just requires more sophisticated management to handle those logistics, regulatory compliance, and to help coordinate or coordination of multiple supply chain partners, right? Because if you're large enough, it's like Amazon supply chain isn't just Amazon, it's global, right? So you're getting stuff from everywhere. So Ryan, you come out with, oh, you didn't you have you invent something in one of the shows? I don't remember what it was now. But anyway,
I don't
you
remember.
you invent something and you want to put it, well, now you become part of that supply chain. If you're manufacturing your own product, well, they've got to get your data over there, right? So it's very it's overwhelming for a small company. I think it's very difficult, especially if you don't have backing. I have it just reminded me of a friend he was actually on Shark Tank. He's a company called Books, and what they did is it was based. You think about it's a flower shop, so you think about flowers, but you don't really think about supply chain when you're thinking about flowers. Like, 1-800-Flowers or Flowers.com was kind of the competitor. He created a company called Books, which was all about direct from farm to customer, right? So he
Hmm.
sourced um, flowers and exotic flower. I don't know anything about flowers all over I don't know, I shouldn't say all over the world, but from very specific places around the world, and created the kind of the software and that supply chain metrics to be able to know when the flowers are going to be best, from a growing season standpoint, and how long will they last by the time they get to the customer. So that all had to be figured out. He was actually on Shark Tank, and didn't get a deal on Shark Tank, but then later, what's the guy's name at the end? I can never remember his name.
The guy at the end of
Not
Shark Tank?
Yeah, the on one side of not Mark
Kevin
Cuban's.
O'Leary.
No, Kevin's always in the middle.
Oh, Robert.
Robert Kir- Kir-
Uh,
Kir-
I can't pronounce his last name.
right.
Yes,
So he
K
ended up.
something.
Yes, he or Hershey, whatever. He had a wedding for I don't know. He had to have a wedding. I assume for his daughter. I don't know. And he needed flowers, and he remembered this kid from Shark Tank who I went to high school with, and he called him and he goes, "Can you do this?" He said, "Yeah." And he came up, and then he ended up investing in the company and really helping them skyrocket. So he's done a really great job. But it's all, so much. That was his biggest problem was, okay, I want to get I like this idea of flowers. It really has nothing to do with flowers. It has to do with supply chain management. If you get to a big enough company, depending on what you're looking to do, it mostly revolves around your supply chain.
Yeah, which I mean, that all sounds incredibly complex. What are the challenges that Books or any business faces with supply chain economics?
I would, the largest is the unknown, right? Because any risk of disruption that you can't forecast for is going to throw everything in. Well, okay, think about pandemic. You couldn't get, medicines. You couldn't get toilet paper for a while. You couldn't, we've been feeling the effects of that supply chain disruption for the last 4 years. And I think it's pretty much evened out now. But it took a while to even get that back up and rolling. So, think about a natural disaster or a political uprising of some sort that just you know takes a smaller country off their pedestal or um, we talked about the pandemic, but any of those kind of things. So you think about like that example with Books. uh, well, what if there's a hurricane in one of your main islands that you're getting? Again, what do I know about flowers or whether you're sourcing them? But say you're getting flowers from like Fiji or something, and it's the best time of the year for flowers from Fiji, and you want to, a lot of people love these exotic flowers, and that because of your supply chain and the data that you have, hey, this is a big season for this type of flower. All of a sudden, there's a hurricane, wipes out the crops. Uh-oh, what do you do, right? Now you have your back
Yeah,
against the wall, and it's not your fault, but it is because the customer doesn't care. It's where are my flowers? And you're going, the hurricane. I don't care about a hurricane. I want my flowers, right? We got a wedding. We got it's mother, whatever.
there's yeah,
Yeah, nobody really cares. So that's where a major point of where supply chain can really fall apart. Another challenge is um, maintaining sustainability. Ethical practices is important, especially here in the United States. So trying to watch your supply chain and make sure they're doing things in the specific way or um, well, there's a word I was trying to find, but that your customer base wants you to act right. So you don't want to source from sweatshops, right? Because people once they find out, that becomes a kind of a stain on you, whether you knew about it or not, right? I can't remember recently, but there was a story about fairly fairly large company. I don't remember if it was clothing, must have been clothing. We've heard the stories about Nike and sweatshops, but where they found out that they were being made, it was like some celebrities, clothing line or cosmetics, I don't know. But they found out that it was made in sweatshops. And I think the whole thing kind of tanked because people were like, we don't want to support this. And you shouldn't want to support it. I don't care how cheap,
hmm
you don't want to support that kind of thing. Um, but when you think about supply chain, sometimes people don't care because people seem to really love their Teslas, but they don't care where the lithium's coming from. They don't care about,
Shh,
you
don't
know,
talk about that. It's good for
well,
the
we should all
environment.
talk about it. I know we'll probably get killed, but still, you know, you're like
Just buy electric vehicles. Don't worry
electric
about how the batteries are made.
or the same thing with your iPhone or your Android, whatever. It
hmm
the batteries. It's awful what they're doing to people over there. But so there's a weird thing. So you say, okay, what do people care about? What don't people care about? That's your data set. It all comes from your supply chain information, and then you can make those decisions. People don't care that we, you know, are torturing children and young people to get lithium, but they don't want their shoes made by children in a sweatshop. So okay, let's not do that. Let's supply it correctly. Sorry. Um,
It's okay.
but
I'm
trying
with you on that.
right, trying to track that kind of thing, it would be very challenging for a company because if you're doing business in other countries, and not to pick on China, but just say China, you don't necessarily know. We know that China's pretty tight with what's going on, so you're sourcing information or you're sourcing product or material from China. Well, do you really know how that's being manufactured, and does that align with your own ethics as a company? And even if you don't have ethics, your main concern or the ethics of your consumers, right? So that
Yeah, and I mean, what's to say, like China, like you said, is very tight. So there can be deception involved too. You come over if I'm a Chinese contract manufacturer and you come visit my facility that is space age, it's all up to date, it's beautiful, and you look at that and say, yeah, I'll work with you. What you don't realize is, and I don't want to say it's necessarily just a front, but that's my one manufacturing plant. I have 10 others behind it that are all child labor, slave labor, whatever you want to call it. And you have no idea. You think you're doing the right thing. And then it comes out somehow that my plant is actually child labor in your company tanks, and you're the bad guy because you were using this, even though you thought you did the right thing.
yeah, you were thinking. I mean, and you never know with big companies because it reminds me of like Foxconn. It's like, oh yeah, you do really great with manufacturing. Why do you have all these nets around your building? It's like, oh, don't worry about the nets. It's like, well, what are they for? Well, they're just for people when they try to commit suicide. We don't like suicide, so we just catch them in nets. And it's like, well, hold up. Does Apple know about
Why are they?
right? And you find out that it's terrible working conditions to make your iPhone. And what I understand, and I don't know a lot of details, but Apple in this case, kind of went to them and said, you got to clean this up because we don't believe in treating people like that. And I don't know if they really care, but they got some bad blood out of that. So um, you go, did they know that beforehand? Does it only come out if it's public and then you do something? But I know if as a small business owner, if going back to we were talking about promotional marketing, if we need to source something from China, like we don't know. It's like, okay, you want 10,000 hats and you want them at the cheapest price or whatever. Okay, we have to go overseas to get them. Well, here's the hat that we found. That's what I want. Okay, perfect. Let's get 10,000 of them, ship them over. Like, I don't have the resources to, do due diligence on a giant Chinese manufacturer, right? It's just like, okay, give me the hats. I don't know where they're made. I know they're made in China. That's about all I know. So I think a lot of, besides the Amazons, the Apples of the world, these giant companies, everybody else they're just trying to get the products and materials over to sell to their clients because they're trying to, create a good company, maybe have some employees and support some people and make a decent life for themselves. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges involved, and with the supply chain. It's crucial for companies to not only understand but also innovate in their supply chain management. It is the wave of the future, I would say, in commerce. Period. Not e-commerce, just pure commerce, and in running efficient companies. It's that is, if you're selling any product, you have to have innovative supply chain management. Whether you're a restaurant selling food, you're selling t-shirts, you're selling flowers, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing, you need to have these. Now, speaking of supply chain disruptions, let's examine a specific one, which was the great baby formula shortage that occurred a few years ago.
This episode is brought to you by the Monteverdi Group. In the world of finance, it's not just about managing your wealth, it's about navigating the journey with wisdom and foresight.
The Monteverdi Group stands with the visionaries and the innovators, offering bespoke financial strategies that align with your unique life goals. Whether you're eyeing the markets, planning your retirement oasis, or securing a legacy for generations to come, our team is dedicated to crafting a path that respects your ambitions and values.
So what sets the Monteverdi Group apart? Well, it's our commitment to personalized service. We understand that every financial journey is unique, and that's why we tailor our approach to fit your individual needs. With a keen eye on the global financial landscape and a deep understanding of our clients, we strive to provide guidance that not only meets but exceeds expectations.
So come and join us at the Monteverdi Group, where your financial aspirations meet our expertise. We're here to navigate the complexities of wealth management together, ensuring that every step taken is a step towards achieving your dreams.
So discover a partnership that values your vision. Visit monteverdigroup.com to learn more about how we can support your financial journey. The Monteverdi Group, where your financial future is in dedicated hands.
That's MONTE, V as in Victor, ERDE, group.com. Adri, the great baby formula shortage, which occurred in 2021, was a perfect storm of supply chain disruptions, regulatory challenge, and unexpected demand spikes, which, I mean, I guess in hindsight, we could have expected the demand spike, seeing that everyone was locked in their homes together in 2020. It's weird that there was a high demand for formula in 2021. But can you take us through the events that led to this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the pandemic, right? COVID-19 was the introduction of that shortage, um, because there were so many supply chain issues caused by the pandemic, and that affected the production and obviously distribution of baby formula. So in February of 2021, one of the largest formula producers in the US had to recall several of its products, and shut down a giant manufacturing facility due to contamination concerns. So that's not, yeah.
Yeah, so what was the impact of the shutdown?
There was no more baby formula. I mean, basically, that took a large portion of the baby formula from the U.S. market, and which led to nationwide shortages. Of course, parents were then left scrambling, and retailers uh, couldn't keep formula on the shelves because there was no supply chain for it. In that situation was exacerbated by, we all remember the hoarding, right? So you walked into the every day you're checking on your Target or whatever, or your Walmart. I don't know where people buy baby formula. And all of a sudden
Wherever they can at that point.
right, and all of a sudden they get a shipment in, and boom, you grab all of it. Screw everybody else. It's all for me. So there was that.
Which your baby needs to eat.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a tough one of the social contract of not screwing everybody else, but that's my child, and my very young child, who can't consume food yet, maybe. So what do you do?
Right.
That
It makes it,
oh,
it is scary. In part of it, you go, well, I know not everybody is the same, you know, but it's interesting that most mothers are born with an ability to create their own, you know? So I'm not saying,
True.
but you go, okay, well, there's a shortage. Do we have a backup? Is there anything else we can do? No, we have to go just hoard all the baby formula. Like, okay, well, and maybe I didn't really realize. I mean, I remember hearing about the great baby, you formula shortage, and I remember at the time I'm like, okay, well that sucks because I know a lot of people are, use baby formula because they don't want to breastfeed, or I know there's people that
Or
can't
can't.
work, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know how many people that is. So you say, and everybody that I know that used baby formula, and I know that there's people that can't, but everybody that I know used baby formula could have breastfed. They just chose to use baby formula for their own reasons, which I understand. But if in a pandemic, and I totally understand if you can't, that's one thing. But if you could, and you're like, oh, maybe, what do I know? I don't know.
Yeah, but it's not like a spigot that you can turn on and off of like,
No,
oh, there's no more formula, I'll just switch to breastfeeding. Like leading into it, if you know there's a shortage and you just have a baby, or you were thinking of weaning from breastfeeding and going to formula, that's one thing. But if you've been using formula and now all of a sudden there's a shortage, you can't exactly just say, "Oh,
right,
okay, I'll switch."
right. Yeah.
Like that's not how that science works.
No, but I think maybe I don't know, but if you go from formula, let's say you wanted to stop using formula, and then you get a pump or whatever, and because I mean, we kind of went through that, and you go, okay, it starts to work. I mean, again,
Yeah, you can lead up to it.
yeah,
It's just not a snap like, okay,
yeah. It's
I'm
like
exclusively breastfeeding starting tomorrow.
right. We need a little bit of time, um, and we had plenty of
So
time. Yeah.
how did the industry respond, and did the government do anything here?
They did actually. I mean, there was a lot of multiple strategies. The government actually invoked the Defense Production Act to increase domestic production, and also worked with foreign suppliers to try to import more formula. So manufacturers increased production at other facilities, and retailers implemented purchase limits to prevent hoarding, which was a really good idea. It came a
Hmm.
little bit late, but hey, you only get two packs of toilet paper, okay? Like leave some for the rest of us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that seems like a comprehensive response from both sides. Now, what lessons can we learn, if any, from this shortage? I mean, this is a tough one of time. Like, there was several moving parts that created this, not just a single issue, so to say.
Right. It was kind of the perfect storm. I mean, you have the contamination on one side, you have the pandemic on the other. So both are disrupting the supply chains at the same time. Uh, and what do you do? I mean, you can't, to your point, you can't predict that. So how do you prepare for it? You can't, and you wouldn't. Why would you prepare? You mean we've now lived through a pandemic. We know that there was pandemics before. There's likely going to be pandemics again, right? But you're not going to spend. I mean, I'm not. I know there's people that will, but most people aren't going to spend all their resources um, trying to prepare for the next pandemic, which could be in 100 years, it could be in 20 years, it could be next year. We don't know. But how much resources are you going to put into the maybe, where you got to put the resources in for right now? So it just comes down to you can't. There are just things that you can't plan for, and so trying to maybe have a some kind of plan in the worst case scenario, or something to try to tape it together. It's hard because having that robust and flexible supply chain is important, and be able to adapt to those unexpected distributions. But again, how do you do that? Second, you need for um, effective crisis management plans that include government and industry collaboration, if you're at that level, right, would be important. So you have a safeguard in place. If those things were to come up, you can, press the button and say, "Hey, we're in trouble right now. Mayday, mayday," right? And finally, it underscores, I think, the role of communication in managing public response during a shortage. When you look back at the pandemic, and I mean, at the first few weeks, nobody knew what was going on. But as we saw it, and you remember when people were hoarding toilet paper and trying to sell it for like
Mm-hmm.
$100? I don't even know what they were trying to sell it for, but it's like, come on, like, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
scumbag are you? And if you were one of those persons, there,
Somebody went to jail,
oh
or I don't know if they ended up going to jail, uh, for antibacterial. It was in like Kentucky or Alabama or something. Somebody drove around the entire state and bought up all of the Purell, I'll say, that was available, and then 500 times the price on it and listed it for sale on eBay, and got into a lot of trouble. I think they ended up, like, it was two young kids who were just like, weren't trying to be as scummy as they ended up being, or weren't as scummy as they looked. That may be a better way to say it. But I think they ended up just losing the money, and the government confiscated all of it and resupplied it back out or something like that.
well, yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I get it. Maybe a young kid, you think, oh, here's an opportunity to make some money because you're, don't have any money, and you go, so one side of it, you go, well, that's pretty, entrepreneurial of you, but hey, keep it reasonable here, because whether you meant it or not, you're still a scumbag. You know,
pigs
you-
get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
right? It's just it was an embarrassing time for a lot of people, and just the way people reacted. You should, yeah, take what you need, and I understand even taking more than what you need because you're terrified. I understand that, but taking what you don't need to try to sell it to other people for profit during
Trying to capitalize on something like that is
yeah,
wrong.
it's
I agree.
embarrassing. Yeah,
Yeah, it's tough though, all around. I mean, we started this talking about Jeff Bezos and inventory management and having low inventory to become more profitable. And then we hit the baby formula shortage, and the conversation turns to, well, how do you prevent this in the future? Maybe having higher inventory, which adds to your cost, which you're going to pass on to your customer. So it's that catch 22 of running thin and lean and as efficient as possible, but having those plans in place at the very least to be able to react in, I think you said, efficient or effective crisis management plans.
yeah,
That is absolutely crucial when we look at it in, uh, when we look at, purely Jeff Bezos's revolutionary supply chain strategies to the broader principles of supply chain economics. This is covered kind of a wide range of topics that show how interconnected our world is, and that there's no right answer. There's always, I mean, we touched on it with Amazon, there's always an upside and a downside, pros and cons. So determining the strategies and implementing the processes to be as efficient as possible without getting your head cut off, or being bad business leaders and bad um, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call it, is a fine line, and a challenging line to straddle.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's to say it lightly, right? Because it is. I mean, how do you, to your point, how do you do it? Most companies just can't do it. But if you're big enough, um, you you have you're trying to make as much profit as you can, but now you have all these contingency plans. And how much money and resources do you put in to the contingency plans, the general ones for hurricane season, because hurricane season come, that's something you can somewhat plan for. But pandemics, I mean, come on, that's a tough one, or any kind of global disaster like that. So I mean, it is extremely complex, and thank you, Ryan, for talking through these issues and exploring them. And also, thanks to our listeners for bearing with us while we talk through these things, and tuning into Money Mavericks and Mayhem. We always appreciate you listening. So we certainly hope you found today's episode enlightening, and that it gives you hopefully a deeper understanding of the challenges and the innovations in global supply chains.
The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to effect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks including possible loss of principal. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.